Hello and welcome back to Chelmsford News with Tom Christiano. Well, today we're going to have a show that focuses primarily on the March for Our Lives event, which took place in Chelmsford Center on March 24th, 2018. However, we'll also have a couple of other things on this show as well. So, beginning the show today, we're going to have Jody Marchand, who spoke at this March for Our Lives event on March 24th. Jody will be speaking very movingly about the gun violence that occurred in her own family and resulted in the death of her daughter. And so she talks very movingly about that at our March for Our Lives event, which was an event to try to improve gun control laws and regulations throughout the country, not just in this area. After Jody gives her wonderful speech, we have a short video that I took in Chelmsford Center last weekend on March 31st, 2018, of the sign holding in Chelmsford Center. As most of you know, that's a tradition here in Chelmsford just before Election Day. For the 3 Saturdays before our local elections, many of the campaign supporters gather in Chelmsford Center and in Vinyl Square, North Chelmsford, and hold signs for their various candidates. So this year I brought my video camera to Chelmsford Center, and you could see a short video here of the sign holding in Chelmsford Center on March 31st, 2018. After that, we have a nice talk by Roberta Witts, who is the president of the Chelmsford Art Society. And Roberta is talking about the 50th anniversary art show that we'll be having this summer on the 4th of July in Chelmsford Center at the Chelmsford Center for the Arts, where we hold our annual Chelmsford Art Society art shows every 4th of July. So Roberta is talking about what this 4th of July show is all about, the 50th anniversary show, and she asks for submissions from various people who have exhibited and won awards at the shows in the past. After Roberta speaks, the rest of the show will be speakers at the March for Our Lives event, which again took place on March 24, 2018 in Chelmsford Center. And those speakers are Chelmsford High School student Zoe Adoniou, then another high school student, and these speeches were fantastic, by the way. I hope you do watch them. Sam Cohn also speaks, another Chelmsford High School student. And then another high school student from Chelmsford, Pat Slattery, speaks. And then we have another high school student, Sophia Marsden, speaking. And so it was a wonderful event that day, and hopefully you'll watch the show and watch these speeches if you haven't seen them already on my Chelmsford News group page on Facebook. Well, I'd like to end the show, as I do with all the show introductions, with a quote, and this one is by Dr. Wayne Dyer. The book is entitled 10 Secrets for Success and Inner Peace. So Dr. Dyer writes, "Releasing guilt is like removing a huge weight from your shoulders. Guilt is released through the empowering thought of love and respect for yourself. You empower yourself with love and respect, letting go of standards of perfection and refusing to use the precious currency of your life, the now, with thoughts that only continue to frustrate and weaken you. Instead, you can vow to be better than you used to be, which is the true test of nobility." And that was from Dr. Wayne Dyer. Well, thank you for watching this introduction, and I hope you'll enjoy the show this week. Thank you.
Stairs, put on my PJs, came downstairs, poured a little glass of wine, and looked for something to eat. My house, which had an open space between the kitchen and family room, was anyway, the TV was on and my husband was laying on the couch, but I hadn't said hi to him because we had had another fight, which was nothing new. And, but he all of a sudden started really yelling at me. He was very angry, and of course I yelled back at him. And the next thing you know, I'm against the wall and he's choking me. And I was afraid for my life. And then he stopped and he left the room. And so I called 911, but then I immediately hung up. My husband was a hunter. He had hunting rifles in the house, and he knew. I knew if I called 911, he could possibly lose his guns, and that would be the end for him. So I hung up and was debating what to do, and in walks my beautiful 17-year-old daughter, Olivia, senior in high school, accepted to University of Vermont, ready to go out on an internship, very happy, was going to make cupcakes, which she knew would make me happy. And I said, no, we've got to go. We've got to get out of here. And she knew exactly what I was talking about. So I went upstairs to change out of my pajamas. In the meantime, the police called back and she said, everything's fine. We were just going to get out of there. Nothing new. I went upstairs to change, and my husband came upstairs with a gun in his hand, and he shot and he killed my beautiful 17-year-old daughter, Olivia. I was shot in the head when I turned towards her to try to save her. The bullet went into my left temple, shattered my jaw, and now sits in my right shoulder to remind me every day of what happened. I tell you my story because I was not a victim of physical abuse. I was a victim of emotional abuse, and I will tell you quickly what that involves. It is power and control. It may be different ways, but it is power and control. I'll tell you something you may be able to relate to. Either it's happening to you, your family member, your friend. When someone's getting 20 texts in a half an hour, where are you? Who are you with? What are you doing? What are you wearing? When are you going to be home? When they are texting you constantly, how about financial? It could be anyone this could be happening to. When the person committing domestic violence won't let their victim have any access to money. None. That's power and control. When they put you down in front of your friends, that's power and control. I need people to know that because I was not hit. He knew he would lose his guns. Well, that day he saw I was ready to get out of there and I was done, and he was not going to have it. He was going to have power and control to the very end. I want people to know. A couple of Christmases prior, he wanted a gun for Christmas. We had hunting rifles around. He loved hunting. I really didn't think anything of it. But then one Christmas he wanted a Glock. So I don't know what a Glock is. But his friend, who was a retired police officer, opened up a hunting and fishing shop, and he got the Glock for my husband. I paid for it, and I gave it to him for Christmas. And that's the weapon that murdered my child. I will forever live with that fact. Do you know, I looked up Glock online. It's a powerful weapon. Powerful, and I read that the police use it. The, what do you call it, the government, whatever they're called, they work for the government. They have a Glock, and it said law-abiding citizens. It's not necessary for people to have a Glock. They opened his safe and found 30 weapons unregistered. We need to take back our lives to know we are safe. If we want to go hunting, fine. We have issues with Lyme disease. I'm not against hunting. What I'm against is people getting powerful weapons and there's no background checks. I say, let's start getting control back in our lives. And I, to this day, will speak to anyone that will listen, because my daughter Olivia is out there, and we will help you. And I thank you for listening, and I want you to know, July 15th at the 4-H Fairgrounds is a Run for Live, Ride for Live. We have a bike ride, and that way I keep my daughter's memory alive on a happy, happy day, and I hope you'll be able to make it on July 15th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Roberta Witts, and I am the owner of Picture Yourself Gallery and Custom Framing right here in Chelmsford Center. I've owned this business for over 35 years. But recently, within the past 10 years, I'm proud to be a member of the Chelmsford Art Society. And currently, I've been elected to be the president. And this coming year, this July 4th of 2018, the Art Society is celebrating the 50th 4th of July Art Festival right here in this building in the Center for the Arts. So it's exciting news for everybody. We're looking to find artists who have won awards between the 70s and the year 2000. It's been kind of tough to follow through and track back that far. We're going through slides, we're going through scrapbooks, we're even going through microfilm from older newspapers, and we're trying to track down some of the original members. We'd love to interview them and have their work on display here in the gallery. And then we will be celebrating also with a student exhibit downstairs. The children from ages kindergarten through 12 will have their exhibit downstairs in the cafe of the Center for the Arts. And then upstairs in the auditorium, we will be having an exhibit of the adult, both professional and non-professional artists. We have awards, we have juried exhibits for the judges that hand out the ribbons, and it's a wonderful time had by all. So when the parade is going on or when the festivities are happening on the Common, the art show will also be available for the public to stop in and enjoy it. We look forward to seeing everybody this year, and stay tuned for some more news on how to apply, enter your art in the exhibits, and we look forward to sharing the good news with Chelmsford. Thank you.
When we march, they are mad. When we walk out, they are angry. When we speak up, they are furious. When we die, they say nothing and they are silent. As young adults, we encounter the pressures that come with education and achieving success. But we are old enough to know that one of them should not be the anxiety of questioning whether we make it through the school day. Will there be a lockdown today? Tomorrow? When will our lives be unexpectedly taken? What will happen when the hallways are silent, the doors locked, and students huddle in a corner, cramped and afraid, and not sure of what to do next? When our third period class becomes the end, we will not stand for this violence, but we will stand for change. Leading up to the day of the walkout, there were many questions in the minds of students. What will my parents think? What will my classmates think? And what will college admissions think if I get in trouble? But the most important question we must ask ourselves is, what do we think? And how will we take the action to see it through? There may not be a definite solution, but what we do know is that something needs to change now, and it should have a long time ago. Knowing that innocent children were the victims of a massacre when they had a future is not something we should be seeing on the news every day. We are in a state of shock and disarray. The minds of students are penetrated by an inescapable sound of a gunshot. And the one way to unravel the chaos is to stand and say, no, never again. Not one more life. We cannot let these students become just another series of numbers on a death toll when there is a story and a life behind each and every one, a future. This isn't about what beliefs are assigned to each political party. This is about shielding our schools from the horrific shots fired that took away one of us, a child. The only way to come to a solution is to raise our voices together. It is our duty as youth to take a stand for all the people. Whether you are a performer, an athlete, an artist, we must stand now and march for our lives today. Nobody wants a body filled with life and knowledge to carry the weight of all the world's worries and woes with a single bullet. The students at Marjory Stoneman Douglas didn't, and neither did the students of countless school shootings. It is now our time to bring forth change and stand with everybody affected by this horrible tragedy. Because the Green Castle shooting in Pennsylvania in 1764 should have been the last time. The Columbine shooting of 1999 should have been the last time. The Sandy Hook shooting of 2012 should have been the last time. And the Marjory Stoneman Douglas shooting should have been the last time. But it won't be unless we, as students and activists and as future leaders of this country, do something about it. Together, we can prevent a place that should be teaching us how to read, write, and explore endless possibilities from filling our eyes with a fear we cannot see past. We, the students of the world, must unite and put aside our differences to take control of our futures and our safety. Although we are young, we are mighty, and I believe that the students enacting change are well-informed individuals who will base their opinions on facts and real-life experiences. History shows the younger generation enacts change. The SNCC, or Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, was a student group during the Civil Rights Movement that participated in many peaceful protests and sit-ins, which caused tremendous movement with student involvement. We are doing the same by recognizing a needed change, so that maybe our voices can be heard and an echo throughout history. As students all across the country walked out of their schools to honor the victims, there was a lot of controversy about how effective it would be. But the fact that it was so widespread shows the impact it has had on students, teachers, and parents everywhere. Please, to everyone who is against it, don't be mad that your children and friends are protesting. Be mad because it had to happen. What happens when we are old enough and nothing has changed, and we have sacrificed millions of lives to protect something that is doing the damage? And if no one else can stand up and say this, I'm pretty damn sure the 1 million students who walked out of over 3,500 different schools on March 14th to honor the victims and inspire change definitely will have something to say. It's now our duty to take control of this situation and let our voices be heard. It's time to come together and be on the right side of history, not the side that says a weapon should have more value and protection than a human life. So we must be the ones to take action, to show the true value and significance of our lives. We are the future and old enough to know that these horrible tragedies can be prevented and stop the world from losing so many valued and loved people, to be the change that we want to see in the world. It's time to let our voices be heard. We can trust that our teachers, role models, and parents have led us in the right direction, but our time is now. We must make this choice for ourselves. We will no longer wear targets on our backs as we cower in fear, but wear our hearts on our chests with fierceness and love, so that we can say truthfully, this will never happen again. Thank you.
I would like to begin by sharing a short story. A pair of frogs were traveling together through the forest when they fell into a pit. When some other frogs noticed the depth of the pit, they told the frogs below there was no hope of getting out. The two small frogs below ignored them and continued to try to jump out of the pit. Despite their efforts, the frogs above continued to discourage them. Eventually, one frog listened and just gave up. As the other frog continued to jump, the frogs ahead continued to tell him to stop the pain and to give up. He ignored them, jumped even harder, and finally made it out. The other frogs asked, "Did you not hear us?" The smaller frog explained that he was deaf, and he assumed they were encouraging him the whole time. My fellow students and I refuse to be the frog at the bottom of the pit who just gave up. I would now like to share a poem that I've prepared. The violence around us is not normal. Ignoring the problem is far from moral. It's the peace and the solace of ignoring reality that keeps us comfortable. This pattern of tragedies, day after day, is truly insufferable. It's the drive and fervor for change that makes a difference possible. To sit back and say nothing would be simply irresponsible. On average, 96 Americans are killed each day with a gun. Doesn't that outweigh the price of having some fun? 1 in 3 Americans know someone who has been shot. I guess we should keep our guns though, because that's worth a lot. 48 mass shootings in just 2018. Are our lives less important than keeping our government's wallets green? Statistics give the surface view, but how would you feel if it happened to someone you knew? We live with a cancer in our society. My fellow students and I enter a school filled with anxiety. A school should be a place for growth and prosperity. Rather, it glimmers violence and disparity. A school should be a place to make a lifelong friend. So why can we only think about how to defend? A school should be a place where memories are made. The lack of action being taken makes me feel betrayed. Love your kids, not your guns. Don't let this be the cause of losing a loved one. America needs a change for gun control, at least a realistic goal. Let us take a stand and be declarative. Let's work now to change the narrative. It is up to us to make change in our culture. It is up to us to ensure safety for one another. I can't say I have the solution, but I don't want to be just a statistic from a lack of revolution. I'd like to leave you with one final quote. We must learn to live together as brothers, or perish together as fools. Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you.
Parents lost their sons and daughters, siblings lost sisters and brothers, friends lost best friends, and even a wife lost her husband. What we see in Parkland can happen anywhere in the country. This hits more close to home than we may like to think. We in Chelmsford or any surrounding community are far from immune to this. We see these shootings time after time. It has unbelievably become a constant in our news cycle. The students of America are past uneasy about this. We need to feel safe in our schools. It is clear that it is time for action. It is time for change. And quite frankly, there isn't one definitive solution. It is going to take a series of both many different legislative and cultural changes to make any fix in this issue. But change is within our reach. We, especially we young adults, are able to ignite and lead this change. The young people of America are done sitting on their hands. It is time that we do something about this unwarranted violence. It doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you stand. We can all agree that gun violence has no place in America, especially in our schools. No matter where your beliefs lie, no matter how young or old you are, no matter your background or your career, let's work together to put an end to this seemingly relentless brutality. We need to come together, respect the beliefs of the person next to you, and create a unified front in accomplishing this change. The world needs to hear the young people's ideas right now. So speak up, speak for whatever it is you believe in, make your own independent conclusions, and then let the world hear them. Don't let any outside pressures morph your beliefs. And for all the young people out there, or for the adults with young people in their lives, here's one thing that we can all do now, not to only make our schools maybe a little safer, but also maybe a little bit of a better school environment. And that is be inclusive. Don't let anybody eat, sit, or study alone. Sitting with somebody you didn't know before can make an indescribable difference in both of your lives. Little differences like this, in addition to some form of necessary legislative change, are going to be what prevent this from happening again. With that being said, let's all, as humans, work together to make our schools safer. Let's work together so we don't need to march again. Thank you.
Norm of violence. As a result, this norm has infiltrated the most valuable places to communities: schools, churches, clubs, cultural centers, and more. Schools and communities are supposed to be places that offer opportunity and mold the future of these communities. Opportunity that will be offered regardless of race, regardless of gender, and regardless of identity. Opportunity that will leave us with the skills to better our communities and fix the problems that we find. Unfortunately, we're standing here, and that means that our day has come too soon as students. This norm has disproportionately impacted communities of color for years and has rocked the lives of countless students. These communities of color have been rallying for years for the exact same reason: to eliminate violence in their schools and communities. It's about time we stood with them. It's time we stood with these communities of color, and it's time for us to support the activists and survivors in Parkland and communities impacted by this senseless gun violence. No student, regardless of race, regardless of gender, and regardless of identity, should ever lose the opportunities their community gives them to violence. No student should ever have to crouch under a desk unless it's to get the pencil they dropped. No gunshots should ever drown out music in a club, and no churchgoer should ever kneel for any other reason than to pray. This means it's up to us to call out our legislators. It's up to us to hold them accountable, and it's up to us to call on them to hold their colleagues accountable. Because student blood is on their hands. That's why we rally, it's why we vote, and it's why we make our voices heard. Thank you.